Back to this week, time now to get the views of our media and political experts, Metro Councilman at Large and Democratic Operative Jerry Maynard, and heard daily on 1510 WLAC syndicated talk show host Steve Gill. Gentlemen, nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
All right, here's my question, maybe the only one I get to ask. So who had the worst recording leak? The president talking about redistributing wealth, or Mitt Romney talking about not really caring much about 47% of the people he think will not vote for him?
Well, let's talk about redistribution. Anytime you have any tax policy, that's redistribution of wealth. When I pay sales tax, property tax, any type of tax is redistribution. And people don't mind it when you're paying for roads, for schools, paying for teachers, for police officers, for firefighters. I think Romney had the worst 2 weeks I've seen of any presidential candidate, except for John McCain during the primary. This man has basically said that 47% of the people don't pay taxes. And included in that, they're victims, that they're lazy, that they're leechers. And we know that that's not true because many of those persons are senior citizens, hardworking individuals who get earned income tax credit and child tax credit. And so we know that those 47% people are hardworking people.
I think it's hard to say that Mitt Romney's had a worse last 2 weeks than a president of the United States who touted his foreign policy accomplishments at the Democratic convention and then saw our ambassador get raped and murdered in Libya with no protection, no security, with his administration then acting like it had nothing to do with terrorism and now having to acknowledge that, yes, it was a pre-planned terror attack. I think to have claimed that you're the expert on foreign policy and leave our embassy so unprotected makes it a worse week for him. On the whole business of this 47%, the bottom line is Romney was right. You were not going to convince people that your let's cut taxes plan is working when 47 to 49% are already paying zero federal income taxes. That's what he was talking about. The other side of that equation is the fact that we have seen this dramatic growth in entitlement spending. The number of people on food stamps, in fact, especially able-bodied people on food stamps, has doubled since Barack Obama did away with the work requirement that Bill Clinton instituted. So you've got folks like the Peggy the Mooch lady we heard 2 years ago saying, if I vote for Obama, I'm not going to have to pay for my house payment, not going to have to pay for my car payment. Peggy the Mooch isn't going to vote for Mitt Romney. He's got to win the other 55% of America.
Do we think he really meant what he said? I don't think he did. You think he said it badly when he said, it's not my job to care about these people?
He didn't say he didn't care about it. He said they're not going to care to vote for a guy.
That was the line going into that. It's not my job to care about these people.
He was talking about politically. He doesn't care about them politically. You're not going to move their vote.
How do you know that, Steve? We don't know that. I take him for his word. He doesn't care about those 47%, and his policy is going to reflect it if he becomes president of the United States.
That's not what he said.
Well, okay, President Obama didn't say he's going to get rid of the work requirement for welfare.
They already have.
5 states asked if they could modify it, if they could have the flexibility to do with waivers. He's not waiving the work requirement for all 50 states, so that's just dead wrong.
Well, keep in mind, though, we don't know exactly what Romney said in context because there's a missing 2 minutes that somehow the media doesn't care about when there's a missing 2 minutes that is around that context. You got the President of the United States saying, you didn't build that, and they've been arguing for the last 3 weeks about context. Right. Well, let's see the full context of this one because we've seen the full context of President Obama, and he said, you didn't build that, you didn't build your business.
Let me respond by saying this. Romney does not want to be talking about 47%. Every day that he has had to talk about this is a day he has lost and saying, this is what I will do for this country if I become president. So Romney's having a horrible time because he is being defined by his gaffes. And President Obama, whether you like him or not, he's already defined. Romney's trying to define himself after Obama has basically beat him up over the last 6 weeks and defining him as this elitist aristocrat. So Romney is the one who lost because he's having to deal with this instead of talking about his policy and how he's going to make America better.
I think Romney's having to deal with a media-created gaffe while President Obama is having to deal with his own policies that have doubled the number of people on entitlement programs, food stamps, welfare. We're looking at the foreign policy disaster, the Arab Spring that he instituted in places like Libya, in Egypt and the rest. These things have become this absolute disaster, and his own administration can't even get their story straight. So I think Romney's gaffes take a backseat to Barack Obama's policies.
There's some breaking news today that Mitt Romney has said in the past he's released the taxes he's going to release. Today he chose to release some more taxes, his 2011 taxes, which he said he paid 14.1%, and a summary of the past 20 years of his taxes, which he said he paid roughly 20%. Is this a change in direction for his part? Is this a good thing for him to do? Is this kind of going back on the word he said, I'm going to release, now he's releasing more?
He's basically doing what he said he was going to do, and he's going to release 2011, but we want to find out what was happening when he was at Bain. We need to know what his taxes were. We don't need to get a summary. We need to find out, as American people, we have the right to see his tax returns, just like he demanded that Ryan give him 10 years of tax returns, not a summary. We need to see 10 years of tax returns for Mitt Romney so the American people can make a decision whether they want to elect him as the president president, I need to know whether he was hiding money in the Cayman Islands. I need to know whether he was hiding money in other shelters in order to avoid taxes. Well, you know, Mitt Romney may be part of that 47% that he doesn't pay any taxes.
Well, we know he paid a lot of taxes because his tax returns that he's just released show him paying over $1 million in taxes at that 14% rate. And what I noticed you didn't mention is he also, with these new tax returns, indicated that he paid 30% of his income, $4 million in charity. If he had not given a dime to charity, much like we see with people like Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Al Gore, and others who've released their tax returns, if he had not given to charity, his tax rate would have been much higher than most Americans. $4 million in charitable contributions, 30% of his income given to charity, 14% to taxes. I don't think anybody can say that somehow he's not doing his fair share when 44% of his income is going to others.
He wouldn't have to give to charity if he just paid his taxes instead of hiding his money across seas. I'd rather him pay his taxes and we have the money in order to provide for people and dealing with social services and dealing with other things like that. He has to give to the charity to make up for all the money he's hiding off in those offshore accounts.
It's not giving it to avoid it. The difference is Jerry wants to spend it in the government on people he wants to buy votes from. Mitt Romney is giving charity to churches to actually take care of people. A dollar that goes to the federal government doesn't help people nearly as much as most of the charitable contributions produce. And the other thing, as long as Jerry's wanting to have releases of stuff, let's see Barack Obama's college transcript, his college records that we've already seen from everybody, including Rick Perry, as soon as he was out there. We know who Paul Ryan dated in college, but we don't even know what classes Barack Obama went to in college.
When you talk about serving people who are poor, when you talk about providing people with education, when you talk about having fire and you talk about having police and teachers and schools that work, that's not buying votes. That means that you care about your residents, you care about your citizens. When you provide a county hospital for those who are indigent and for those who don't have the money to pay for their health care, that's not buying votes, that's caring for the least of these. And that's what my Bible tells me to do. Steve is my friend. He knows I'm not trying to buy anything other than provide service for the residents who elected me to serve them and constituents, all of them, whether they're rich like Mitt Romney or they're poor like me.
Where did you put that $500 billion from Solyndra into your calculation under the Bible? The $500 billion that went to the green company
I'm not the
that
president.
Obama gave.
Steve Gill, Jerry May,
That's
appreciate your
tax
time
money.
and your insights. Stay with us as we continue in a moment.